Welcome back to Faith Brynel Talks Law podcast, where we pivot and not panic. If you're thinking about a career in law, you'll probably ask yourself, should I become a barrister or a solicitor? And more importantly, what is the actual difference? Because let's be honest, from the outside, it can all look the same. In today's episode, I'm breaking it all down for you so you can decide which path is right for you. Let's start with the basics. So a solicitor typically works directly with clients. They handle the legal advice, paperwork, negotiations, and case preparation. On the other hand, a barrister is usually focused on advocacy, so representing clients in court, presenting arguments, and dealing with complex legal issues. So if you break it down this way, solicitors prepare the case, barristers present the case. And so once you understand that very simply, it becomes easier to decide, do you want to be a barrister? Do you want to be somebody who executes the task, or do you want to be somebody who prepares what to say? And barristers and solicitors do work together quite often, especially now with solicitor advocates. So first of all, let me briefly define what a solicitor advocate is. And welcome back to all of you. And remember, the whole podcast mantra is pivot and don't panic. A solicitor advocate is a qualified solicitor with additional higher rights of audience. And what that simply means is this. Qualification allows them to represent clients in higher courts, the Crown Court, the High Court, the Supreme Court. And what this role does, it combines traditional solicitor case and management with courtroom advocacy, handling cases from start to finish. So rather than preparing the bundle and handing it off to a barrister, they continue it through. And they possess the same rights of audience as barristers. They are able to cross-examine witnesses and present arguments in superior courts. A continuity, they manage a case from the initial instruction through a final hearing. So the client doesn't have to meet two different people, but they're meeting a solicitor advocate. And it provides a single point of contact. Qualification. So they must complete further training and assessment to gain higher rights of audience. And that's what the crux of it is. And areas of practice, they specialize in civil, criminal, or family law. The difference between a solicitor and a solicitor advocate is that a standard solicitor works in the lower courts, so magistrates or county courts, and instructs barristers for higher courts. A solicitor advocate can appear themselves. The question could beg, why do you need barristers if you can do it all? Well, solicitor advocates are employed by law firms and manage the full case, whereas barristers are independent and instructed for court advocacy. And so when you're becoming a barrister, and for me, I am an aspiring barrister myself, you're focusing on advocacy. How are you persuasive in your oral submissions? How are you encouraging the judge to see it from your point of view? And that's what's important when you're qualifying as a barrister. It's advocacy. As a solicitor, you're thinking about that client relationship. You're looking at teamwork because you're working in different environments. And there are some benefits as to, choosing a solicitor advocate, because using one person for both preparation and advocacy can be more cost effective for clients. And the solicitor advocate is argued to have a deeper knowledge of the case details. Let me segue into segment 2 of the episode of what does a solicitor do? So I'm speaking from somebody who's done a vacation scheme. Vacation scheme is where you shadow a solicitor for a week. So my first vacation scheme took place in 2018, summer 2018, in Shoesmith. And I shadowed Kishma Balaji, who's now a judge. And it was a great experience to shadow her because she was specializing in clinical negligence. And I got an opportunity to meet with clients, to meet with her junior solicitors and get an understanding of what it would be like to be a solicitor. I've also done vacation schemes. I've done internships with Bright Network, the commercial law internship. I was an ambassador in 2021, and it's given me another overview of the solicitor route. It showed me what I don't want to do. I want to do law, but I want to be a barrister because I'm passionate and interested in the advocacy aspects. So as a solicitor, what might your day-to-day work include? Well, meeting clients. That's one of the most important things you'll be doing, meeting the clients, getting a sense of what the issue is, drafting legal documents, giving legal advice, negotiating settlements. The main difference between the barrister and the solicitor is managing those cases from start to finish. A barrister comes in once the solicitor has prepped the client, prepped the bundle, the barrister comes in and delivers, but the solicitor is with them from the start line, and you're managing it from start to finish. So whilst yes, you're delegating, you're instructing the barrister receives those instructions, you're present in case there are any other queries. And in the many pupils I've been on, you have had an opportunity to, I've witnessed barristers engage with solicitors and say, okay, what do you think about this? And so that's the kind of rapport relationship you build with them, because they're the person who has met the client first. They've discussed the issue with the client, and then once you've come in and been instructed, you're the person as a solicitor who's managing those cases from start to finish. And in terms of the location, you're working in law firm, companies, or government departments. And if you're working for the government legal department, there is no formal distinction between a solicitor and a barrister. You're called a lawyer. So because when you're working for the government, you're not advocating, but the advocacy is externally sourced from different chambers. So be aware of that if you want to go down that route, especially with the GL. A solicitor's role is great for somebody who enjoys organizational structure. You're very interested in meeting new people. You're good at harnessing and brokering client relationships. Experiencing a consistent workflow. This path might suit you. So now let's talk about what is a barrister. And again, I'm somebody who's also shadowed barristers through a couple of mini pupilages, and on this podcast, I've interviewed barristers about what they do, about their challenges, about their cases. I'm equipped to share with you my personal third-party information I've got from shadowing barristers and interviewing barristers. But as an aspiring barrister myself, I've taken a lot of research in the day-to-day. But barristers are specialists in advocacy and legal argument. So if you want somebody to advocate for you, other than a solicitor advocate, but you go for a barrister. And their work includes representing clients in court, cross-examining witnesses, providing specialist nuanced legal opinions, handling complex or high-level cases. It's really important because many barristers are actually self-employed and work in chambers, but you do have barristers who are employed. There is a dichotomy or a difference between employed or self-employed barristers. And let's just talk about that. Understand what the options are. You've got to understand what they look like. A self-employed barrister, they're independent practitioners based in chambers, managing their own business, billing and tax, offering a high independence and variable income. Employed barristers work for organisations, Crown Prosecution Service, law firms like DWF or Brown Jacobson. They have structured pupillage programs. It offers a steady salary, employee benefits, maternity, paternity leave, structured work hours. Employed barristers is the most common because employed barristers are 1 in 5. So as a self-employed barrister, your structure would be practicing from chambers, you're independent, sole practitioner, your income's variable and dependent on your billing and fees. Your benefits is that your freedom to choose when you work and control your practice and what you work on. The costs and risks. So you're responsible for your taxes, your insurance, your chamber rent, your chasing fees. You're using clerks to manage your court diaries and fee negotiations. And clerks have a pivotal role and they're really helpful to barristers. So your structure is different. And essentially, you're employed directly by organisations like the government legal profession, firms, corporations, so DWF and Brown Jacobson and other organisations will hire barristers. Your income is a steady monthly salary. Your benefits is paid annual leave, sick leave, maternity pay, paternity leave, pensions. Your costs and risks are lower because you've got no overhead, no chambers rent, no need to chase any fees. And the nature of work focuses on providing in-house counsel, acting for one client, which is your employer. But arguably, self-employed offers greater flexibility because you can choose when you work. If you don't want to work on a Wednesday, you don't work on a Wednesday. Whereas employed, you've got financial security that's greater, less flexibility. So it's about choosing, do you want greater financial security or do you want greater flexibility? Responsibility, self-employed, you're responsible for all aspects of the business. You're self-employed. So regulatory compliance, your taxes, your insurance, and so on and so forth. But you've got more independence in your professional actions and client selection. However, you can have a higher earning potential because you've got that fee aspect, but you have a higher risk. But both types are regulated by the Bar Standards Board. And if you're interested in becoming a barrister, you can read a little bit more about that from the Bar Standards Board in terms of ethics, in terms of structures, or you can just continue to follow and subscribe to this podcast. In season 8, episode 5, we discussed how do you actually know if a career in law is right for you? That's season 8, episode 5. And then we've also got other episodes coming up, and I've also done in season 8, 2, from politics to the bar. So those are a couple of episodes you can tune into. So the bar is for people who enjoy public speaking, critical thinking, and performing under pressure. Just my last couple of segments now, because it's just going to be a brief episode today. Your training route. So to become a solicitor, you typically complete a law degree or you do the law master's conversion. You pass the SQE, known as the Solicitor's Qualifying Examination. You've got SQE 1 and you've got SQE 2. So SQE 1 and 2 are different, and then you've got to complete 2 years of qualifying work experience and pass the SRA character and suitability check. So academic study, university degree, law or non-law, and then or you do the law master's conversion. SQE 1, which is about functioning legal knowledge. SQE 2 is practical legal skills. Preparation courses aren't mandatory, but they're strongly recommended. Work experience, 2 years of full-time or equivalent part-time qualifying work experience. So you can do it with up to 4 different organizations, including training contracts, paralegaling work, or student law clinics. And then you've got to pass the Solicitor's Regulation Authority or SRA character and suitability assessment. Alternatively, you can do a solicitor apprenticeship, which is a non-graduate role combining paid employment with training, usually around 5 to 6 years. Or if you're qualified in other jurisdictions, you can follow a tailored SQE route. To be a barrister, you complete a law degree or law master's conversion. I'm currently finishing off my law master's conversion, and then you take the bar course and secure pupillage. Both routes are competitive, but pupillage is particularly challenging to secure, and that's an episode we'll speak more about. I'll do another episode and I'll interview a barrister who's got pupillage and ask them about some tips as well to get pupillage in their personal journey. Thanks for tuning in today. Sometimes, solicitors have more predictable income and structure, especially early on. Barristers can have more flexibility but more uncertainty, particularly at the start. But it's not just about prestige, it's about what fits your personality, your strengths, and your long-term goals. So to finish off then, which one is right for me? Well, you've got to ask yourself the following questions. Do I enjoy advocacy and speaking in court? Yes, barrister. Do I prefer client interaction and case management? Yes, be a solicitor. Do I want stability early on? Solicitor. Am I comfortable with risk and competition? Barrister. There is no better option. It's only what's right for you. And I know for me, that journey is going to be a barrister. So remember, you're not starting from zero. You're pivoting from experience. And my first episode to kick off this season was Pivot and Don't Panic. If this episode helped you, make sure you subscribe, share it with somebody who needs it, and follow along at Faith Brynel Talks Law on any social media platform. I'm Faith Brynel, and this is Faith Brynel Talks Law. And if you're navigating your journey into law, you can connect with me to the link in my bio, follow me on LinkedIn. Until next time, pivot and don't panic, and have a great week. Bye, everybody.